Kids these days have no respect. Back in my day, if I talked to my elders the way these brats do, my father would have thrown me out the window, twice. That was me, Frank Miller, 70 years old, retired, and proudly grumpy. I had a reputation to uphold. I didn't do small talk, I didn't wave at neighbors, and I certainly did not entertain children. But Danny Parker? Oh, he didn't get the memo. Danny was 10 years old, all freckles and boundless energy, and for some reason, he had decided that I was his new best friend. I lived next door, which apparently made me an easy target. "Hi, Mr. Frank," he chirped one afternoon, leaning on my fence like he owned the place. I squinted at him. "Kid, what do you want? Want to play chess?" he asked, holding up a small wooden board. Now let's get one thing straight. I wasn't just any old man. Back in my day, I was a chess champion. High school tournaments, local leagues, I had trophies collecting dust somewhere. So when this little punk challenged me, I did what any self-respecting old man would do. I laughed in his face. "You think you can beat me, boy?" I smirked. Maybe. Danny shrugged. Maybe. Oh, now it was personal. We sat on my porch, the chessboard between us. I cracked my knuckles, already picturing his look of utter defeat. 5 moves later. Checkmate. And not my checkmate. His. I blinked. Stared at the board. Looked at Danny. Looked back at the board. Wait. What? Danny grinned. "You lost, Mr. Frank." I rubbed my temples. No. No. That doesn't count. That was a fluke. Let's go again. Danny shrugged. Sure. 10 minutes later. Checkmate. Again. I sat back in my chair, arms crossed, glaring at the kid. "You're cheating." Danny laughed. "Nope. I just learned from the internet." The internet. The thing I spent years grumbling about, saying it was ruining young minds. And now it had somehow turned a 10-year-old into my personal arch-nemesis. As Danny skipped off home, humming happily, I stared at the chessboard like it had betrayed me. That night, I made a decision. Tomorrow, I would reclaim my dignity. The next morning, I woke up with one mission: defeat Danny Parker. This wasn't just about chess anymore. This was war. I dug through my closet, pulling out my old chess books, dusty but filled with wisdom. I spent hours relearning openings, counterattacks, endgame strategies. Then, I did something I never thought I'd do. I watched YouTube tutorials. That's right. I let the enemy train me. But that wasn't enough. I needed a sparring partner. That's when I called Tom Henderson, my best friend of 40 years and fellow retiree. Tom waddled into my house, took one look at the chessboard spread across my table, and burst out laughing. "Frank, what the hell is this? You plotting world domination?" "I need to practice," I muttered. "For what?" I clenched my jaw. "I lost to a kid, Tom. A 10-year-old. Tom nearly fell over. "Wait, Danny beat you." "Oh, this is rich. This is going in the retirement home newsletter." "It's not funny." "Oh, it's hilarious," Tom cackled. Frank Miller, chess legend, destroyed by a kid. I ignored him. I had work to do. For the next 3 days, I played chess like my life depended on it. I lost to Tom at first, but soon I started winning. By day 4, I was ready. Danny showed up at my porch, chessboard in hand. "Rematch?" he asked, grinning. I smirked. "Oh kid, you have no idea what's coming." We set up the board. My hands were steady. My mind was sharp. Move 1. Move 2. Move 3. Everything was going exactly as I planned. Danny was falling into my trap. And then, checkmate. Danny grinned, resting his chin on his hands. I froze. No. I lost. Again. Tom, who had been watching from my porch, fell off his chair laughing. Danny giggled. "You got better, Mr. Frank. But you still have a lot to learn." I slumped in my chair, rubbing my forehead. This wasn't happening. Danny looked at me expectantly. "Want me to show you what you did wrong?" I sighed. Every fiber of my being wanted to say no. But then again, what if I actually learned something? I grumbled. "Fine. Show me." Danny beamed. And just like that, the war between an old man and a 10-year-old had only just begun. I had officially entered chess boot camp. For weeks, Danny and I played almost daily. Every afternoon, like clockwork, he'd knock on my fence with that same smug grin. "Ready to lose again, Mr. Frank?" And every afternoon, I'd grumble, shuffle outside, and proceed to get my pride stomped on by a 10-year-old. The worst part? I was actually starting to enjoy it. At first, I convinced myself it was just about the challenge. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being about winning and became about something else. One afternoon, as we set up the board, Danny casually mentioned, "You remind me of my dad." I nearly knocked over my knight. "Your dad? What kind of insult is that?" Danny laughed. "No, I mean it in a good way. He used to play chess with me all the time." I hesitated. I'd never heard him mention his father before. "Used to?" Danny shrugged, adjusting his pieces. "He passed away when I was 5. Heart attack." Something inside me tightened. I knew that pain all too well. Losing Eleanor had left a hole in my chest, one I had never tried to fill. "Sorry, kid," I muttered. "That's rough." Danny just nodded. "It's okay. Mom's always busy, so I guess that's why I like playing with you." I stared at him. Me? The cranky old man next door? This kid actually enjoyed spending time with me? For years, I had convinced myself I was better off alone, that I didn't need anyone. But sitting there, watching this kid carefully plan his next move, I realized something. Maybe I wasn't the only one who needed this. "Your old man must have been a good player," I said. Danny beamed. "Yeah, but I think you're better." I scoffed. "Kid, you've beaten me 23 times. 24, he corrected with a grin. I shook my head, but for the first time in a long while, I smiled. One day, as we played, something weird happened. Danny let me win. At first, I didn't notice. I was too busy basking in my long-awaited victory. "Ha! Checkmate, kid. Looks like the old man finally got you." But then I saw his smirk. That little punk had thrown the game on purpose. I narrowed my eyes. "Wait a minute. You let me win, didn't you?" Danny shrugged. "Maybe." I frowned. "Why?" He leaned forward, resting his chin on his hands. "Because winning isn't always the point, Mr. Frank." I stared at him. "Come again?" "My dad used to let me win sometimes," he explained. "Not because he couldn't beat me, but because he wanted me to keep playing. He wanted me to feel like I was good enough to come back for another game." I didn't say anything, because in that moment, I realized something. I had spent my whole life trying to win. Win arguments. Win at chess. Win at being the grumpiest old man in town. But Danny had been playing a completely different game. He wasn't trying to beat me. He was trying to keep me in the game. Not just chess. Life. For years after Eleanor passed, I had shut myself away, convinced I had nothing left to offer the world. But this kid, this 10-year-old with a lopsided grin, had done something no one else could. He had brought me back. I took a deep breath, staring at the board. Then, for the first time in my life, I did something I had never done before. I reached across the board and knocked over my own king. Danny blinked. "What are you doing?" I smirked. "Resigning." "You win." His jaw dropped. "Wait, really? You're not mad?" I chuckled. "Nah. Sometimes you gotta know when to lose. To win something bigger." Danny grinned, and for the first time in decades, I felt light. A few days later, Mary, Danny's mom, stopped by. "Mr. Miller, I just wanted to say thank you." I raised an eyebrow. "For what?" She smiled. "Danny hasn't been this happy in a long time. He really looks up to you, you know." I rubbed the back of my neck. "Me? A role model?" That was new. Tom, of course, took the opportunity to tease me. Well, he mused, leaning against my porch. "Frank Miller, the neighborhood menace, has officially gone soft." I rolled my eyes. "Shut up, Tom." "No, really," he grinned. "Next thing you know, you'll be baking cookies and signing up for the PDA." Danny snorted. "I'd pay to see that." I pointed a finger at him. "Don't push it, kid." But I was smiling. Because for the first time in years, life felt full again. And maybe, just maybe, losing to a 10-year-old had been the greatest win of my life.